My name is Tetiana and I'm a trainer and consultant in HR and service field. We will talk today with General Manager of InterContinental Kyiv Hotel, Baptiste Pigeon, the person who has worked in 15 different hotels, 11 countries, different continents. Mr. Pigeon, you have spent 5 years in Ukraine. Now you are moving to your next destination. You were my boss, then you became my mentor, friend, and I would like you to share with your rich experience with our audience. Looking back to your experience working with different continents, with a different level of educations, with different people, and I would like you to ask, do you adapt your management style according to the country? And if yes, what about Ukrainians?
Well, Tetiana, let me first thank you very much for having me with you today. I mean, working with you over the last 5 years has been a privilege and an honor for me, because you have that passion of sharing your knowledge and wanting to develop others. And I think this is a great gift you have. Now, I have decided indeed 35 years ago, to have an international career. This is something I wanted to have. And that required to me a certain adaptability, obviously. I mean, working in different continents, working with different cultures, different religions. And you have to approach the process in a very open-minded way, because if you're too rigid, obviously, when you move like that, you cannot ask people to adapt to you. You have to adapt to them. Reaching Ukraine was something new for me, because I've worked around the world and never worked in this part of the world. And I found a very welcoming people and population.
Do you feel any difference adapting to Ukrainian
No, it was
culture?
it was not that difficult, to be honest. Something that shocked me at the beginning, to be honest, is that I found the people a little bit cold. People didn't smile. And I was explained that effectively smiling is not something natural and normal, let's say. So it required from my hand to ask people to change a little bit their approach on the facial experience that is required. But otherwise, I was very happy to join the team here, because I found a young generation that was really willing and had the drive to do good things, to learn new things, and it was a pleasure working with them.
In 2015, the hotel was awarded with 13 different awards, including the best hotel in Europe among 400 hotels within IG. Could you share a little bit your strategy and your actions, how you managed to achieve such a great result?
Well, first of all, I would like to stress on the fact that this is not a single individual achievement. This is a teamwork. This is a teamwork. I don't believe in individual success. So the credit goes to the team. The credit goes to every single employee that has been working in this hotel during those periods where we were recognized. Now, in order to achieve those great results, you need a certain number of elements. We have developed within our company a certain number of metrics. What do we call metrics? 10 different elements that allow you to measure your performance. If you want to manage, you need to measure. So first of all, having those metrics implemented was something very important. The second aspect is that to develop a certain number of tools to implement and to reach those metrics and those results. When I talk about metrics, for people to understand, I'm talking about goals, objectives that are clearly defined. But something which is important in that metric aspect is that you want them to be compatible with others. You've mentioned we've achieved great results amongst 400 hotels. We've been comparing with the others, our results with the other results. And that allowed to develop, and I'm sorry, I might jump a little bit, but that will allow to develop a culture, a winning culture. We say to each other every morning, guys, look at their results. We can beat them. We can do better. And you create that emulation that is coming from outside to inside, and then which is regenerated internally every day through the figures we share, through the achievements we share. And that has been really the key elements. They have been the key elements in achieving those results.
So basically, it's a winning matrix.
Yes.
It's a winning culture, to build a
Yes,
culture.
exactly.
And if there is something else.
I think that leadership in that respect is very important. I think it's very important because you need, like in a football team, even though I said there's no individual success, but a football team needs a captain. I consider myself as the captain of a ship. I'm setting the direction, but we all row together, you know, we row, making sure that we will all reach the port safely, in time, and successfully. So I think you need that strong element in the process.
And which role in this boat takes employees? How would
They
you
all
describe?
have a very important role to play. I think that each individual in any kind of organization has a very important role to play. For them, they need to be told exactly what we're expecting from them. They need to understand that within the customer journey, we're talking about the hotel industry here, within the customer journey, from the moment the customer calls to do a reservation, till the moment the customer goes, he will have to interact with a certain number of employees. But a lot of people who will be behind, that will never have an interaction with the customer, will have a very important role to play. Let me take a very simple example. A maid. A maid has a very difficult role to play. She has to clean the room of the customer every day, repeat that work, and ensure that the customer will enter a room which is spotless. This is a very hard work, which is very often not recognized. A cleaner, a guy who cleans the plates, you want to make sure that when you go to the restaurant, you're served with quality food, good meal, well presented, in a clean plate. And again, the cleaner will not be that valued and recognized, even though he has a very important role to play. And we, as leaders, have to value their work and make them understand that they are important within the process.
Do you have any specific communication style with the employee, or how do you communicate with the employees, the target, the objectives, your recognition? Is there any specific way?
Yeah. Communication, I think, is a critical aspect in terms of leadership. You need to constantly communicate with your workforce. So I will decline that in two aspects. You have what I will call the formal communication. So institutional communication, call it the way you want, which is, you know, internal memos, what we call a memorandum, information that will written, I mean, black and white, you know, formal aspect of it. Then you have the verbal communication that can be formal and informal. I do, for example, organize every month something we call a communication meeting. We could call it a town hall, we could call it different names. But at the end of the day, I want to ensure that every single member of our workforce is aware of our objectives, is aware of where we stand. So that meeting, which lasts, let's say 30, 45 minutes every month, I have a formal aspect of it, which always the same slides in terms of our financial performance, in terms of the feedback we get from our customers, where we position ourselves compared to the 400 other hotels, and then a more informal where we talk about training, where we talk about activities. But it's in a ballroom, people are seated, and so that's the formal aspect of it. Now, what I call the informal aspect of it is something which is very important for me in terms of leadership, is the ability to have to go to the other. Our employees are important. The first thing I do in the morning, I shake hands with the bellboy. I shake hands with the guy who is standing outside, being cold, being rainy, being hot, because I value them. Then I go to the front office, and then I shake hands with every staff. And then I start the tour of the hotel at 8 o'clock in the morning, saying hi to everybody. They feel value, and I value them. And it's genuine. It's not something I do because I feel obliged, no. When I have meetings with my department heads, for example, very often I go to their office. I don't call them to my office and make it too formal, no. I want to constantly have that open communication channels that will create a kind of stress-free environment where people feel value, where people feel at ease, but they know they have to deliver.
Mr. Pigeon, you spoke about employees, about building relationship. You also spoke about recognition and to make employee feels valuable. Is it really enough to build a strong winning team?
Yes and no, but the answer will be more no than yes, because like in every organization, you need rules and values. Now, you need rules because people need to know what are the limits of what they're entitled to. We work in luxury hotels. I mean, people need to understand that in terms of dress codes, I mean, they have to follow a certain number of rules that are set. Working schedules, etc. Those are rules that are part of any kind of organization. But you need values as well. Values, you know, I always compare values as something very important. In a family, we have values. Loving, sharing, caring, and those values, they apply as well I think in a company. So having clearly defined the rules and values to each individual within the organization is very important. In that respect, if you allow me to do a small diversion here, I do not have any single employee starting working in this hotel without having spent 2 days, it was with you before, in what we call induction. Because I want to make sure that they have a clear understanding where they work, what are the core values of the company they work for, what is our philosophy, what we're expecting from them. If you take someone from the street, you put him behind the desk and tell him this is what you need to do, I mean, he will do it most probably, but he will not do it as well as knowing exactly where is the environment he's working in. So those are I think very important aspects.
I also know your hint as a leadership hint that you're coming with all head of the department teams to welcome the employees and to say them hi, to recognize them from the very first day. And what are maybe somebody behind of this process as well?
Well, again, you want them to feel welcomed. You want them to feel valued. You know, when you start a new job, you reach a new office, new environment, you're a little bit scared. I mean, you're not at ease. I want them to understand that we are in an environment where I want people to feel at ease. I want a stress-free environment where obviously we're here to work. This is what we're paid for. We're here to deliver as per the rules and regulations of the company and in respect to the values. But I want them really to feel welcome. And coming with the whole team, they will understand with whom they have to work.
And you spoke also about creating this safe environment. But what if employee does a mistake? What do you do and how do you react?
This is a big question. This is an aspect I love in terms of leadership, because at the end of the day, I think we are all human beings. I do mistakes. You did mistakes. We all do mistakes. What is important when we do a mistake is to recognize that we did a mistake first, and second, to learn out of that mistake. How could have I done things differently in order not to do a mistake or to deliver whatever problem? Doing mistakes is something I accept as far as people understand and learn out of them. Now, if you do the same mistake 3 times, 4 times, then you will have a problem with me, obviously, because it will mean that you haven't learned about it and you're not willing to do better. Now, there's one aspect. I said we all do mistakes, but there's one thing which, for me, it's not acceptable. We call it the red line, you know. Do not steal, no mercy. You steal, you're out with me, because I will lose that confidence. And if there's no trust between you and me, we cannot work together.
And how do you make people know your rules so they know that this is a red line?
Communication. As simple as that. You just need to communicate. You know, when I reach a new property, I always talk about those things. The first communication meeting I have with all the team members, I tell them, guys, do mistakes. I want us to trust each other. I want us to work together, but never steal, because you will have no mercy from me.
I know also that you worked with a different generations. I know that you've seen in your life many different religions, but also many different generations.
Definitely.
Do you see any difference with the new generation?
Oh, definitely.
Difference in working?
Exactly. I mean, I'm what we call one of the last baby boomers. I mean, you know the baby boomers, they're born in between the end of the Second World War, 1945, and the beginning of the years and the 60s. So I'm a baby boomer. Since then, you had the baby boomers, then you had few generations. Now we've reached the time with millennials, and now we're even talking about the Z, the generation Z, if I'm not mistaken. What I can tell you is that if I was leading and managing the hotel I'm working in, the way I was doing that 20 years ago when I first became a GM, I will be a lost case, because the expectations of the younger generation are different today than the expectations of people 10 years and 20 years ago, in terms of mobility, in terms of respect, in terms of speed of growth. They all have, I mean, a young guy of 20, 23, 25, I mean, he wants my seat tomorrow. And I respect that. I respect that. But we still have to use and to go through a certain number of steps that will allow them to grow and to, but their expectations are different. Again, they need to be valued for who they are as a personality. And within InterContinental, this is something we have embedded very well, because we ask people to join our organization respecting their values as well. They have to respect ours, but we respect their values. And we respect their personality. That gives the diversity of people we have in our organization that makes that company very rich in that respect. Be yourself, we call it. Be yourself.
You also use some phrases in your daily work, in your daily life at work. And one of these phrases, like, never assume.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit about this?
Well, this is something I've learned through my long years of experience, is that we very often, and me first, we very often assume things. We listen something, we listen a story, we're facing a case, and then we know the answer because we assume that we understand the whole thing. And that leads us to very often bad reactions, bad step forwards, because we do not take the time to analyze, to understand. So never assume. Never assume your people understood what you wanted to say, for example. You know, I have those communication meetings. I unfortunately do not speak Russian. I do not speak Ukrainian. So I go through a translator. But at the end of every communication meeting, I go to my colleagues and I ask them, how was the meeting? Now, I don't go to them to listen, you're a good speaker or whatever. No, this is not what I'm interested in. I'm interested to know what they got from the message. Because I know what I want to deliver as a message, but I never know how people get it. And I don't want to assume that, yeah, they understood what I wanted to say. So never assume, never assume. Always question yourself.
And we talked about metrics, we discussed a little bit about objective, winning team, employee, but for the hotel industry and for the client who are coming to the hotel, for them, first of all, important is service, which hotel provides. And if we talk about excellent service, because in 2015 we talked about awards, and the hotel also received the quality award. Could you mention some key elements in order, which important to keep in mind in order to create an excellent service or service that company can provide?
I think it's a very interesting question you're bringing here, because at the end of the day, we do work in a service industry, definitely. And what are the expectations of our customers? This is what we need to understand. Now, we're lucky enough, we live and we work in a beautiful environment. We have crystal, we have gold, we have, I mean, it's a beautiful environment, but it's not enough. Because at the end of the day, the expectation of the customers are very clear. They want to be recognized. They want to have a different experience. And who will provide that? It's the colleagues you have. Now, considering that your customer wants to be recognized, wants to be valued for who he is, you need to do the same thing to your employees. Exactly. Because if you want your employees to recognize, to value the customers, they need to understand that they are valued themselves. So it goes together. It goes together. Because I could say, and again, we work in a beautiful environment, but sometimes you have beautiful hotels and the service is not at the level of the expectation of the customers. And you can have gold and crystal, the customer will not have that good experience he expects. So It's a combination, but the key element of it is definitely the people.
Mr. Pigeon, over the years, you have managed to be not only a manager for the team, you have managed to be an inspiring leader, role model for many employees. What would you recommend for the leader to be constantly developed as a skill in order to become an inspiring and effective leader?
You gave already part of the answer in your question. You've talked about role model, and I think that role modeling is something extremely important. We say in English, walk the talk. No one has to do things that they request others not to do, and vice versa. So being a role model is definitely very important. I've talked about saying hi to the staff in the morning. I mean, you expect the staff to say hi to the customers as well. So you want to be a role model. When there's a paper on the floor, I mean, who am I? I'm the GM. I will call housekeeping, please clean the floor. No, I will take the paper, right? It's a matter of respect towards my colleagues. It's a matter of respect towards the company. It's a matter of respect towards our customers. So this is already one thing, part of the answer. Now, the second aspect is that we've talked about the generations. The generations' expectations are different. They've been evolving. I think that as a leader, you need to evolve as well. You need to read. You need to be a very good observant of your environment in order to see that things are changing. You cannot manage and lead today the way you were leading yesterday because you're already outdated tomorrow. So you need constantly to evolve. I very often take the example of the train. You see the train passing. If you do not grab that train, you'll be outdated immediately. Things are going very fast. So you need to question yourself constantly. This is something very important. Never rest. Never feel yourself in what I call a comfort zone. The moment you're in a comfort zone, you're gone. You're gone.
Sometimes you say that if you were a good leader in the past, it doesn't mean that you were a good leader.
You are as good as what you deliver today. The day you will have a problem in your job, with your bosses, you will not say to them, well, remember 2-3 years ago we did those things. I cannot build on the awards we got in 2015. I still have to ensure that we continue delivering great results. Because 2015, it's the past. I need to work on the present and the future constantly. Never be in a comfort zone.
During your speeches, you talk about yourself not only as a leader, not only as a general manager or manager, you're also mentioning about yourself like more as a family man. You have your wife, beautiful wife, with whom you spent more than 30 years.
Yes.
You have 3 beautiful daughters.
Yes.
How do you manage to balance your life and work? How to create this balance?
Before answering the question on how I managed to balance my life, I would like to say that this is a very important value for me, the family value. And if I've managed to have the career I had, I have to pay credit to my wife in that respect, because she's been extremely supportive. I've been asking to move into different countries, 11 countries. She did 13 moves in her life because she handles this. We went to Japan, we went in Africa. She delivered our first daughter in Africa, in the middle of nowhere. How do I balance my life? I would say that I'm not perfect. I'm far from being perfect in that respect. And I've dedicated a lot of my time into my career. Why is that? Because I'm passionate about it. And I'm passionate about my family as well. But I knew that my wife was taking very good care of the family environment. So I felt relief. And maybe if I had to change something in my life, even though I never have regrets because you never can go back, right? Maybe I could have spent a little bit more time with my daughters and my wife. But so far, I mean, I'm a very fortunate man. I mean, I'm a very fortunate man. I have a great family, and I'm very lucky in that respect.
Your success, your leadership example really inspires people around. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for your values. Thank you for your experience which you shared with us. Thanks.
Tetiana, I'm the one who should thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that experience together. But more or less, thank you for making it possible, because as I said earlier, there's no individual success. I wouldn't have succeeded without the support of, first of all, you, but the team around. So it was a great pleasure. Let me just conclude saying one thing. I do believe in your country. I think we've managed with the team to put Ukraine and Kiev and InterContinental Kyiv in the map of international tourism. And there's so much potential. There's so much drive. There's so much willingness to go forward that I'm very confident that for the future of tourism industry into Ukraine. And I wish you as well, I mean, all the very best in your new initiative. And you will always have me as a great supporter and great believer of what you intend to do here. Thank you very much, Tetiana.
Thank you for today. Thanks.